My husband's, male 32, sabbatical has become pathetic, and I, female 30, want it to end right now. We're both early 30s, married, no kids. We own a house together. Mortgage. My husband worked for the same company for almost a decade. He earned a good salary. But the last few years were rough on him, thanks to his overbearing boss. He discussed quitting ever so often, and I was open to the idea as long as he had another job lined up. Well, last year, he quit, spur of the moment, over a seemingly minor dispute at work. He would later call it the straw that broke the camel's back. No other jobs lined up, nothing. He assured me that he had savings he could live on, that he wanted to take some time to recalibrate. He also had a few business ideas he wanted to pursue before getting back into the workforce. Trying to be a supportive partner, I said, okay. Fast forward to today, he has no income and literally hasn't sent out a single job application. He hasn't even updated his resume. What has he been doing these past 8 months, you ask? Smoking weed, a bunch of scammy work from home BS that hasn't made him a dime, and most recently trying to become an Instagram influencer. Yes, seriously. To be fair, he has also done some handiwork around the house and fixed up some things, but for the most part, he spends his days smoking weed and dicking around on Instagram, and I'm effectively subsidizing it. We used to split bills 50-50, but now it's more like 80-20. The last time I tried to have a serious talk about his future plans, he jokingly said that I could divorce him and pay him alimony if I didn't like the current situation. Then he broke down and wept, saying that he might be depressed. I felt horrible for him and offered him my full support, but in retrospect, I'm curious if it was just a convenient excuse to pivot the conversation and get me off his back. What would you do in my shoes? I've grown resentful of him and this whole situation. I would also grow resentful of that. Like, I can understand, letting your partner, take a little time off work and maybe it, ends badly. They're really being treated badly at their job, but, they really need to quit for, their own mental well-being. I understand, supporting them, and as long as they're, using that time off productively. Because I am not, I don't want to sound like I'm not taking care of my partner because he quit his job. But if I see that he's just smoking every day and being a bum, I understand the depression aspect of it. I mean, I can fully empathize with that because I struggled with depression and it's really hard, and especially being working from home at that time, and I was doing something that I thought I liked to do but kind of discovered I didn't really like to do, and it was so hard because I just felt like I had no purpose. So I understand, but I simply don't want to just support you smoking all day and just being lazy and not doing anything. If you truly were trying to pursue a passion or pursue something like the Instagram influencer, yeah, it sounds a little cringe, but if he really was putting a lot of work into that, I would definitely support that. Because Instagram doesn't really make you money because you can't really monetize off that, but there are a lot of other things that you can try to do online, get monetized on a lot of different platforms that I would be totally in support of, even if it took a little bit of time. But you can only really be supportive if you see someone putting an effort. And then also if you are depressed, then that's another conversation. You have to go to the doctor, you have to get help, you have to, and I know it's hard to do that and to make that decision. And also it can be hard to find the motivation to want to get help because you feel like nothing's going to help you and it's never going to get better. So I can have sympathy for him if he really is depressed, but if he's just using that as a manipulation tactic to make her get off his back because of that, then that's really messed up. But I don't know. I would be really stressed because not having someone contributing to the household would be really hard and stressful because that just puts extra, like, you're working so hard making money and then you're having to spend pretty much all of it because you're having to cover pretty much all the bills and everything, and that's a lot. And after 8 months, like 8 months is a long time to be doing that. I would fully be so stressed out and be like very resentful.
If you want extra content weekly, head over to patreon.com/storytimesociety and become a member on there for extra content. Love you.
All right, update 1, 6 days later. On the day I made my last post, my husband and I had a talk that night when I got home from work. I basically said that he needed to make a doctor's appointment for his mental health or cut out the marijuana use, or both. He repeatedly refused and actually got a bit hostile about it, which is not like him at all. Then I moved on to finances. I asked him how much of his savings he had left, and all he said was, enough. I pressed him for a dollar figure and he wouldn't answer. I asked if he had a balance on his credit card and he said no. When I asked to see his bank statement to confirm, he basically told me to F off. Again, hostile and out of character for him. I told him that the current arrangement wasn't working and that he'd have to start paying 50% of the bills on March 1st. At this point in the conversation, he completely shut down. He wouldn't even look at me. He just sat looking away from me with tears in his eyes as I talked. I doubt he even heard a word I said, but I clearly stated all the other issues I had, the Instagram stuff, our plans for the future, etc. After this conversation, he stopped sleeping in our bed. For almost a week now, he slept in the basement. He basically doesn't leave the basement when I'm home unless it's to get food. Honestly, it's pathetic. I'm going out with some colleagues this weekend for a fun night, and my husband can stay home like a hermit. I also have a coffee date planned for Sunday with my best friend. I'm going to tell her everything and get her opinion because, honestly, this isn't the life I want to live, and trying to correct it only made things worse. I am beginning to think of a divorce as a real option, which would have seemed outrageous even 3 weeks ago. Thanks again for reading and giving your input. Wait, why do I actually kind of feel bad for him? Because if I put myself in those shoes with my partner, I would be like so sad if I saw that my partner was like really upset about this and like crying about it and feeling like extremely like, I don't know, I feel like obviously there are like these gender roles that a lot of men and women and a lot of people assume the gender roles, you know? Like men usually feel like they need to be the providers, like they need to be the tough protectors, they need to, you know, whatever, to be like manly, which obviously I think we're progressing in that way of being like, no, it's actually okay if that is like something that both of you guys want. If the woman wants to assume the role of being the breadwinner and stuff, like that doesn't mean that you're any less of a person, of a human, of a man, like, you know. But I feel like he is feeling a lot of shame, and that's probably why it's hard for him to talk about it. But the thing about it is, it's like you are a grown up, you are an adult, and you do, and he does seem like really depressed. Like it's definitely giving depressed if he's just like sitting in the basement every single second of the day and like not coming out. That would be a huge concern for me. Like I would be worried that he was going to hurt himself, honestly. But the thing about it is, it's like, as hard as depression is, if you're in a relationship, you do need to have that communication and you do need to have that like effort to better things, especially for the sake of your relationship and obviously the sake of your own health and your own mental health. And it's really important because if both partners aren't putting in the same amount of effort, then that's only going to end up in like a divorce or a breakup and going your separate ways. Okay, this is nearly 2 months later, update 2. My husband continues to sleep in the basement. I asked him a few times to start sleeping in our bed again. He'd say maybe, but never actually do it. We've stopped having sex entirely, but I have heard him watching porn in the basement. On the morning of March 1st, we had a horrible argument when I asked for his half of the monthly bills. He e-transferred me about 2/3 of what he should have. And when I asked for the rest, he exploded. He just kept saying F off, louder and louder, over and over as I tried to say that he needed to contribute his fair share. And then he started talking about his depression again. Literally, the only time he will up his depression is when I'm criticizing his shitty life choices. He hasn't even seen a doctor or been diagnosed, yet he uses it like a get out of jail free card to be totally unproductive and not pay bills. So I told him point blank, either see a doctor for your depression and start fixing your life, or this marriage is over. It sounded so harsh, but those are honestly the only two options at this point. He made some quip about me paying him alimony if I divorced him. Not the first time he said this, and that was the last we spoke of it. We have briefly seen and talked to each other since then, but there's no warmth there anymore. It's like we're roommates. Last week he told me he booked a doctor's appointment, and I was happy for him, but as far as I can tell, he never ended up going, even after I offered to take the day off and drive him to the appointment. I don't think he's left the house in over 2 months. I've stopped cooking him meals, so he now subsists on instant noodles he bought off Amazon. I met with a divorce lawyer for the first time earlier this week. He was excellent and gave me a comprehensive rundown of all of my options. When I told him about my husband's alimony comments, he laughed and said, "Not a chance." He voluntarily quit his job against my wishes. He has no official diagnosis from a doctor that would preclude him from working. I don't know where he got it in his head that he would be entitled to alimony from me. I'm holding on to a shred of hope that my husband will put forth some kind of effort to get better and repair our relationship. I pray every night that he'll do a complete 180 and start being his normal self again. But if nothing changes, I plan to meet with my lawyer again sometime in early April and officially file for divorce. Yeah, see, I get it. I get it, but like, it's hard because he's not willing to actually put in the effort that he needs to, and he's not willing to like actually go to the doctor. Granted, like, it probably would have been a good idea if she would have just been like, hey, like, I'm taking the day off and we're going to the doctor. Not just like offering, but just being like, we're doing this, because then you could make sure that he went to the doctor. Because sometimes it is really hard to leave the house, get out of bed when you have depression or have any motivation to do anything good for yourself. And it can be really hard. So I think that would have been definitely a good idea, because at least that first step would have been taken, and then he could get diagnosed, he could get put on medicine, and like, that could end up being the start of something so good, and he could completely do a 180. Like, if he truly is depressed, he could absolutely do a 180 after like getting on medicine and stuff. Granted, sometimes it does take a while to find the right medicine for you and all of that kind of jazz. I was lucky enough to like really honestly have my medicine work out pretty seamlessly and easy, which was really great, but it definitely had an effect on my relationship at the time. It definitely did. Like, it's hard to be in a relationship, even though it's terrible to be depressed, and obviously it's terrible to feel this way, but it can be hard to be in a relationship with someone that is mentally ill and that is depressed. And although you love that person, like, it's really hard. It can be hard on the relationship and hard on the other person in the relationship. And I don't blame her for feeling hopeless and like thinking about her options. I don't blame her. But I also have a lot of empathy for the husband as well. So I don't know. But I guess we'll see. All right. This is 4 months later. I finally got him to see a doctor. I wasn't in the room for the diagnosis, but the doctor suggested my husband look into cognitive behavioral therapy and SSRIs. Of course, my husband was opposed to both. He could read about CBT online, and I've known for a while that he's outright hostile to the idea of taking antidepressants. He describes them as brain warping. We had a week or so in April where things almost felt normal. We talked more, we ate dinner together, slept in the same bed together, even had a date/movie night. I felt so hopeful. Things truly seemed to be getting better. It didn't last, though. We had a fight about something completely innocuous, and things quickly fell apart again. One day after work, I sat in my car and was completely overcome with dread. The thought of going home to a broken relationship, it was too much. I drove around aimlessly for hours, wondering how in God's name my life had turned out like this. Half the time I was sobbing. I must have looked crazy. This was my breaking point. I was done with the relationship and the marriage for good. When I told him my decision, he wept openly, as did I. He said he was sorry, but that he understood. He didn't ask me to reconsider or make any effort to save the relationship, which tells me It was a right decision for both of us. He moved into his parents' basement a few weeks ago. I'm still in a rough place emotionally. I pray that time will heal me and that I'll be able to find love again. Okay. How can you be seriously, you're going to be like, I have depression, I'm so depressed, but then you're not willing to do one singular thing about it? I hate when people have like this stigma around therapy and medicine. It truly bothers the shit out of me. It's like, okay. And honestly, I grew up in like a family that really, like, the thing is my mom and my dad, they both took anxiety medicine, depression medication. Like, a lot a lot of people in my family have mental illness, including me. And still, not my dad so much, but like my mom was kind of under the impression, and this was from like things that she learned from her parents, like my mom is an amazing person. She's such an angel, but she truly like thought that she isn't fully educated on like mental health and mental illness and stuff. And she, for a while, would be like, well, thinking that medicine, like, you could just heal yourself with like prayer or like positive thinking, or like going, like when people are like, oh, just go for a walk, you won't be depressed anymore. It's like, yeah, if only it were that simple. I would love for it to be that simple, but it's simply not that simple. It's just not. And if it were, then people wouldn't be unaliving themselves and people wouldn't be mentally ill. Like, that makes it seem like it's a choice to be depressed. And guys, it's not a choice to be depressed. And I hate when people make it seem like it's a choice to be depressed. Like, I cannot change that my body chemistry is made this way, that I have to take medicine in order to make myself at a baseline of like contentness and to not be depressed and want to end my life. Like, I would not choose to feel that way. And I don't think anyone would choose to feel that way. It's really, really hard because it's something that you can't see. So since you can't see it, people have a hard time believing it and think that maybe you're doing it for attention or just so many other things, like, oh, well, you're not doing enough to make it better, or you're not doing this, or you're not doing that. And yeah, so I don't know. I grew up like around that stigma and thinking like, oh yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe I just need to do more and I'm really the reason that I'm depressed. But that just wasn't the case. And as long as I tried to hold off on getting on medicine, I wasted so much time and energy thinking that wasn't going to help me because it was just like stigmatized. And it did in fact help me a lot, and it changed my entire life. So someone said it's one thing to have depression, but it's another one to entirely get a diagnosis and then refuse treatment. I'm actually glad he moved back in with his parents, as they can keep an eye on him and make sure he's okay, or as okay as possible. If you're on good terms with them, you may want to tell them some of your concerns about him. Commenter 2 said, you're both relatively young and have no children. The fact that when you verbalized your decision to divorce, there was no confrontation or mention of attempting reconciliation is telling. Honestly, this is probably the best outcome for both of you. Him living with his parents means that there will be someone looking out for him whilst he sorts out his issues, and you will have the space and freedom to move on with your life. Good luck to you. And then commenter 3 said, sad that it comes to this, but it seems like the natural conclusion for so many relationships. Even in cases where one party does try to become better, the other party ends up checking out at some point and the relationship ends anyway. Your husband is an adult and has made some choices, for better, for worse, and he has to face those consequences. I'm truly sorry that your marriage has ended, but I think we can both agree that your future lies down a different path. I just wish that people would just get the help that they need and like stop denying it, or just thinking that like you can pray it away or go to church to heal yourself. Like, I'm so sorry, but I had a relationship with God all my life. okay? All like for about, I'm 27, for about 25 years of my life. And I would always think, like, because it's such a thing, or at least it was in my Christian community, to genuinely be like, give it up to God and like, you will feel so much better. And I tried so hard, and I would always question, like, why can't I get better? Like, why can't I pray it away? And why can't God like help me? And I'm praying so hard and I'm trying to get so close to God, but I can't seem to feel any better. I don't feel any connection. I don't feel anything. And it's like, yeah, well, that's what science is there for. That's what doctors are there for. Like, to help. And yeah, you guys know me and my relationship with religion is just not the best. I feel like I come off really judgmental sometimes about it. And I think that's just because I'm so new to like the deconstruction of Christianity.
Love you guys. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.